Привit, I'm Chuck Olenek, a Ukrainian American baptized with the name Yaroslav. Today is January 12th, 2025. It is year 3, day 323 of the war in Ukraine, or day 1054 since Russia began its all-out assault in an attempt to conquer Ukraine and overthrow its democratically elected government. Normally what I do is I do videos by collecting photographs that are occurring during the war and artwork which is created during this war in Ukraine. And I bundle them together and I put them up as videos on my YouTube channel, and I hope to share the information. And I have normally two types of videos. One's a daily, called A Day in Kyiv, and that'll usually have about 16 photographs or pieces of artwork. And then there's also Shaping Ukraine, which tends to be about 15 to 20 minutes long and includes about 15 days worth of videos. So this one's a little different because I've run into friends who have made their comments about, Ukraine should not be getting any assistance at all. It's a matter for Russia to deal with, and Ukraine, let them sort it out. And that kind of hit home. I also had friends telling me, hey, the only reason this war started is because the U.S. was trying, meaning certain administrations were trying to push Ukraine into becoming a part of NATO, which is inaccurate. As I said, this one's a little different today. The reason I'm doing this a bit differently, today is the day of the Ukrainian political prisoner. It hits real close to home because my grandfather, Pavel Gavrilovich Ulyanik, and his brother fought for Ukrainian independence. And my grandfather's brother was executed in front of his family. My grandfather was shipped to the gulags, and he died there 3 years later. This isn't just a Stalin thing. This has gone on, and it continues to go on. So I thought I would take a little time and introduce you to some of the people who ended up as political prisoners. January 12th, the day of the Ukrainian political prisoner. These men have been silenced but not forgotten. Vasil Stus was a poet, human rights defender. In 1980, he was sentenced to a labor camp, or gulag, for promoting Ukrainian culture and opposing Soviet tyranny. Exiled to the Urals, he died in a punishment cell. This is Levko Lukyanenko, author of the Act of Declaration of Ukraine's Independence. Between the 1960s and the 1990s, he spent more than 25 years in Soviet prisons and camps for daring to defy the regime. This is Vyacheslav Chornovil, politician and a dissident. He spent nearly 10 years in Soviet prisons, enduring 83 interrogations in a single year, 1972 to be specific. Chornovil spearheaded Ukraine's Declaration of State Sovereignty and the Act of Independence in 1991. This is Oleg Sentsov, a Ukrainian film director. For openly opposing Russia's annexation of Crimea in 2014, he was sentenced to 20 years in prison in 2015. The Russian court fabricated a trial marked by torture and abuse by the FSB in order to extract a confession. In 2019, he was released in a prisoner exchange and returned to Ukraine. Irina Danilovich was a nurse and journalist. In 2022, for advocating for healthcare workers in Crimea, she was abducted by FSB agents, held in a basement for a week, pressured to confess to treason, and later sentenced to 7 years in a labor colony. This is Riza Izzetov, Crimean Tatar activist and human rights defender. In 2022, a Russian court sentenced him to 19 years in prison. He was sent 9,000 kilometers from Crimea to a penal colony in the Republic of Sakha, Russia. Jamil Gafarov was another Crimean Tatar activist. He was sentenced to 13 years in prison by Russian courts. In 2023, Gafarov died behind bars due to inhumane treatment. The number of Ukrainian political prisoners held by Russia reaches into the hundreds. Political prisoners in Russia, that's nothing new. It was done a lot during the Soviet era. If you want to, just take a look at what happened to Alexander Dubček in what was Czechoslovakia. Anybody that raised a voice against Soviet policies disappeared. Anybody that raises a voice against Russian policies disappears. This is why people have to keep fighting. Until the next time, Slava Ukraini.